and welcome back to Things No One Cares About, or today, more aptly we could say, things a lot of people care about, because I'm going to be talking about Attack on Titan, which is an extremely popular anime, manga, just an extremely popular series. So if you have not watched the show or read the manga and you plan on doing either of those things, please click off the video and watch the show. So my plan for this video is to split it up into a complete chronological timeline of the show, so that's everything you see without manga spoilers on it, and then I'm going to go back and show the rest of what happens in the manga that isn't yet revealed in the anime as of December 5th, 2022, and then at the end I'm just going to talk about it a little bit, but it's going to be very long, so if you like long videos, stick around. If you like long videos, also maybe consider subscribing to my channel. Hi, so I originally wanted this video to all be one part, but my computer did not have enough RAM to edit a 3-hour long video, so it started to have problems halfway through, so I decided to split it up into 2 parts. So sorry about that. I really wanted it to be one 3-hour long video, but I'll work on this issue for the future. So this video is going to end at the end of 850 following the operation to retake Wall Maria, and this video is completely manga spoiler free. So part 2 of this timeline is going to be split up into 2 parts. It's all going to be in one video, but that video is going to be half finishing out the anime timeline and then half of the rest of the information that's revealed in the manga chapters that are not yet published as of December 13th. Not yet animated as of December 13th. So again, sorry about that, but please check out the second half of this video when I post it. Okay, bye. But so as I kind of just mentioned, this video is going to be totally safe for people who are entirely caught up on the show. If you are only partway into the show, you can't watch even like the beginning of this video because this is a chronological timeline. So I'm starting at 2,000 years ago, so like 1300 BC, assuming there's like a 0 in the Attack on Titan universe. The show really only takes place from about 845 to 854. So as you can see, the beginning of the video will be things that you might have not seen. So if you plan on catching up on the show, click off this. I really wanted to do a chronological timeline of the show, but that completely undoes all the artistry of the way that the story is actually told. Obviously the story is told in like a very purposeful way in terms of where it starts and how it has flashbacks and whatnot. So there's a really good reason for why it wasn't told this way. So again, another reason to watch the show. I really love the show, obviously, and I don't want to ruin the viewing experience for anybody who might want to view it. My main goal here was to sort of get a look at the larger picture and to answer some little timeline questions that I had for myself because the timeline is so weird, and because the story is told mostly through Aaron's eyes, we kind of miss the big overview of why this is all happening. So with that, we'll just get into it, and I'm gonna start pulling some of these sticky notes off the wall. Okay. So 2,000 years ago, about 1200 BC, again just using BC terms here, there was an Eldian kingdom ruled by King Fritz. And one day a group of pigs escaped their pen because somebody left the door open, and they all decide to blame this on a young girl named Ymir. She's a young slave girl and she's blamed. So because King Fritz is kind of like, not the most stable, he's like, okay, I've got the perfect punishment. I'm gonna release Ymir and we're gonna hunt her down. So they do that. She trips, she falls into one of those like openings at the base of a tree, and she lands in water. She sinks to the bottom where she touches something that is essentially the source of all life. And when she touches this, she immediately turns into a Titan. Also, side note, if you've ever wanted to invent sticky notes, like, the market is ripe for it because these things suck. There's so much tape on this wall. That was the whole point of using sticky notes, was to not have to use tape, but whatever. So King Fritz, reigning bad guy of the realm, was like, okay, sweet, I have got a Titan. I can use this and exploit this amazing power. And he does that. He uses her power to build up Eldia to greatness. He builds infrastructure, and he kind of just completely destroys the competing empire of Marley. Even though King Fritz sucks, Ymir, who was a child when she met him, she is in love with him. And as a reward for all her amazing work, he gives her the amazing grand prize of getting to marry him and bear his children. He really just wants to pass on the Titan power. So they have 3 kids named Maria, Rose, and Sheena. One day, 13 years after Ymir became a Titan, the king is attacked and had a spear thrown at him, but Ymir jumps in front of him to save him. She lives because Titans can heal, but the king, wanting to pass on her Titan powers, has her daughters eat her. So again, really cool guy we have here. Sorry some of the words got cut off. Like I said, this tape was not originally in the equation, but it happened. So the daughters become 3 more Titans, and their daughters eat them, and this creates the 9 sentient shifter Titans that we see in the show. We have the founding Titan, who can only be fully, use powers can only be fully like reached with royal blood, so blood of King Fritz. We have the attack Titan, the beast Titan, the jaw Titan, the cart Titan, the Warhammer Titan, the armor Titan, the colossal Titan, and the female Titan, who isn't always female. I would love to know what her actual name is. But Eldians are forced to continue her bloodline and to pass on the 9 shifting Titans every 13 years because Ymir only lived 13 years with her Titan. So if one of the 9 is not eaten, its power will pass into a random Eldian baby. So just to clarify, the process for passing these down is that a Titan, a pure Titan, has to eat one of the shifters. Either spinal fluid, and then boom, Titan. So even though Ymir dies, she lives on in this weird ethereal space that we'll come back to a lot, called the Paths, or called the Coordinate, and it's a space that connects all Eldians, aka all the children of Ymir. So again, this is where we first start to see that Eldians means a few different things, because right now Eldians means anybody in the kingdom of Eldia, whereas the children of Ymir is somebody with the blood of Ymir and who can turn into a Titan. In the Coordinate, she builds the Titans out of sand there. So every time one of the 9 is passed on, the new Titan inherits the memories of the old Titans through these paths. There's one exception to this, and that's the attack Titan, who he can inherit the past memories, but he can also inherit the future memories because he's the Titan who always moves forward and seeks freedom, so he can see the future memories, like the forward memories. So between 2,000 years ago, between after Ymir dies and 743, Eldia continues for these hundreds of years to use the power of the Titans to grow its greatness. Depending on whose history you listen to, Eldia is either this horrible empire that demolishes, pillages, and plunders other nations, or they use these powers to connect all of the continents and empires of the world to boost quality of life for everyone. The truth likely lies somewhere in the middle, but we do know that at one point the founding Titan uses Ymir and uses these paths to change Eldian physiology to make them resistant to a plague at one point. So not only can Ymir use the path and the Coordinate to make Titans, but she can also change Eldian biology, and the one who possesses the founding Titan can also do the same. So a little bit of lore that will become helpful later. During the height of the Empire experimented with children of Ymir and with some Titan science, I'll kind of call it. In doing this, they accidentally created a special power with the Ackerman bloodline. So the Ackermans were just a normal Eldian family. Through these experiments, they became genetically designed to be the best warrior, and this was so that they would be able to protect Eldia's king, protect the royal blood. And this means that they have higher than average physical abilities, and they all experience an awakening moment where their power awakens, where they just know what to do. They just have that instinct to fight, to kill, to do whatever they need to do to protect themselves and to protect, someone. And they also receive the combined battle experience from every prior Ackerman through the paths. So the Ackermans, really powerful, really fighting, really good at fighting. One thing to note is that they cannot turn into pure Titans, but they still have access to the paths. So they receive things through the paths, they can hear things through the paths, etc. During these hundreds of years, in this whole span, while Eldia is growing stronger, you have other countries building themselves up. One nation, Hizaru, becomes a friend to Eldia, and Marley, a nation that's existed, kind of starts to rebuild its strength after the initial attacks from Eldia. So one day, Marley, not one day, I say one day Marley, a whole nation just woke up and felt weird one day. No, eventually they become very sick of Eldia. They want to use the power of the Titans for themselves, and so they incite an Eldian civil war, and they use this unrest to make their move. And this happens in 743 during the Great Titan War. In this war, they gain 7 out of the 9 Titans. They're not able to capture the attack Titan, and they lose track of him, and they also are not able to capture the founding Titan, who is held by the 145th King Fritz. We don't know much about this war, but we know a lot about how it ended. And how it ended was that King Fritz, this 145th King Fritz in 743, he is sick of the fighting. So he strikes a plan with an Eldian family called the Tiber family, and they hold the Warhammer Titan. So they strike this plan for Helos Tiber to publicly oppose King Fritz and to push him back to the island of Paradise. In reality, King Fritz just wants the fighting to end, so he voluntarily decides to leave and to take like as many Eldians to the island with them. And so there's the story that Helos Tiber tells all the Eldians living on Marley, and that's that he defeated King Fritz, he pushed him back, whatever, and that King Fritz is basically like took all these Eldians to Paradise, to the island of Paradise, and threatening that he'll use the founder of Titan if Marley ever interferes. The reality is like so much worse. Basically, King Fritz is like, yeah, honestly, Marley hates the Eldians. A lot of people hate the Eldians because they're afraid that they can become Titans. They're scared of that. And so he just wants to take as many Eldians to the island so they can live in peace until the inevitable day that Marley eradicates them. So even though he threatens to use the founder, he never actually does it. And I'll talk about that threat a bit more later. So the fallout of that very crucial war is that you have a lot of Eldians left on the mainland. They're hated and they're feared because they have the power of the Titans. They are designated to internment camps because, again, now Marley controls them. There's no more Eldian empire anymore. And these live in many different countries, not just Marley. So in various countries, you have Eldians held in internment camps. So now let's talk about that threat that King Fritz has. So on Paradise, he uses the power of the founder to use like massive colossal titans to build 3 concentric walls. He names these after the children of Ymir, Maria, Rose, and Sheena. And he uses the power to also build like a cave under this chapel. It's just like a family cave. I don't know what to tell you. But the last thing that he does with the founder is he manipulates the memories of all the Eldians on Paradise. So they think that there are no people outside the walls, that no one knows where the Titans came from, and that no one knows how the walls got there. He also sets up a fake king and a fake royal family called, that he sets them up, says this is the real King Fritz, and then him and his family go live under the name of the Rice family. And every time his founder Titan gets passed on to another royal blood Eldian, they inherit his vow to sort of keep the secret. It's called the vow to renounce war. It's not really even about renounce war. Like, it is a vow to just wait until somebody comes and demolishes you, which is like, again, pretty grim. The last main fallout of this war involves the Hizuru nation, who were an ally to Eldia during the war, and in the aftermath of the war, the heir to the Azumabito clan living in Hizuru, their heir was left behind on the island. So the founding powers don't work on the Azumabito because they're not Eldian, so Azumabitos cannot turn into Titans, and they don't work on the Ackermans because of their bloodline. So these 2 clans rejected King Fritz's plan because he can't manipulate their memories, so they reject this vow renouncing war because, again, it's just a vow to wait until they get annihilated. And because of this rejection, the royal family hunts these 2 clans to the brink of extinction until the Ackerman head offers his own life in exchange for the survival of his bloodline. So the rest of the Ackermans never pass on the knowledge of the outside world in order to protect themselves, and still the remaining Ackermans and the Azumabitos are oppressed, and most of them start living in hiding either in underground parts of the city or in the mountains in rural areas. So this is the world that our story takes place. We have Paradise, an island full of people who think that they are the last of their kind. They don't know who these Titans are. There are a few remaining people who know the truth. But after a couple generations, those people, that knowledge dies out because those people don't pass it down out of fear. We have the rest of the world that hates Eldians because they're scared of them, scared of the fact that they can turn into Titans. And yeah, that's where the world's at now. In addition to being hated in Marley and in a lot of other countries, Eldians are hated. Like I said, they live in these internment camps, and they're also taught that they are responsible for the sins of their ancestors. So here begins a very long, sad tale of oppression, of internalized hatred, etc., etc. So for the next 40 years, nothing much happens, but one thing that is important is that sometime in the 770s, in Marley, a young girl is chosen by a pro-Eldian religious group to be their god, Ymir, because she supposedly looks like the founder, Ymir, and they call her Ymir. They worship her as a god until in 784, when this group is caught by Marley. Obviously, in a country that hates Eldians, you cannot be pro-Eldian, you cannot worship the goddess who is called a devil by the rest of the country. So they capture them. The punishment is that they are turned into pure titans and they are just set loose on paradise. The girl, Ymir, she tries to take the blame in order to save everyone else, but that doesn't really work. She's turned into a titan too and set loose on paradise. Then in 806, we have a very important character born, Grisha Jaeger. He is born in the Marley internment camp, Liberio, and then in 809, you guys, these sticky notes. In 809, his sister Faye is born. May they both live long and happy lives. They grow up a little bit, have as normal childhood as you can in the internment camps until in 817 when Grisha and Faye want to see the airships. They want to see these like blimps. So they sneak out of the internment zone, which is like a big no-no, and they are caught by two men, one named Aaron Kruger. Grisha is beaten up and sent home, but Faye is taken away. They like tell her that they tell Grisha that they're gonna like take her home while they kind of beat the crap out of Grisha, but she never comes home because she was fed to dogs. The following day, these Marleyan officers come to the Jaeger home and they tell her that she just died, and Mr. and Mrs. Jaeger just sort of eagerly accept the story, even though they know it's a lie because they believe that Eldians are culpable for the past. They understand the punishments for if they were to like say anything. And this is obviously very formative for Grisha. He cannot understand why his dad is obeying like a dog. So the thing about that man, Aaron Kruger, one of the men who caught Grisha and Faye, is that he is secretly an Eldian pretending to be a Marley soldier. So now when we're talking about Eldia and Marley in the context of the Marleyan nation, now an Eldian is anybody with Ymir's blood, anybody who can become a titan. So they do blood tests and like whatnot to figure out who has to stay in internment zones, but Aaron Kruger like fakes some stuff and he pretends to be a Marleyan. He is also part of the Eldian Restorationists, which is a group that wants to restore Eldia, pretty obvious name, and the group has secretly held the Attack Titan ever since the Great Titan War and has been passing it down until a day when they can make their move. In 819, oh my gosh, Aaron Kruger inherits the Attack Titan. Back on Paradise in the 820s, we have a couple of like important things going on. There's a young boy named Erwin Smith, and his dad is a teacher. He's a really smart teacher, and he realizes that there's something fishy with the textbooks and the history inside the walls. But he also knows that if there is a conspiracy, it really must be going to the highest level for something like of this scale. So he tells Erwin about some of this and tells Erwin to keep his mouth shut, but Erwin doesn't listen because he's literally a kid. I don't understand why you would tell like your child something like that, but whatever. Erwin obviously talks to his friends about this and he's like, okay, so my dad thinks that there is a whole world outside the walls. Isn't that crazy? And the military police, who is devoted to the king, the real king, held by the Rice family, remember, yeah, they kill his dad. Like, poor Erwin. Sad. Another thing going on is with the Ackerman family. So remember I said that the Ackermans were still hunted down even though one of their relatives like made this deal. Well, around this time, the reigning founding Titan holder, his name is Yuri Reese, there's an Ackerman named Kenny, and he tries to kill Yuri for murdering his whole bloodline. I think that's understandable. But this assassination attempt fails, and Yuri apologizes for those murders committed by his forefathers, and he accepts Kenny as his right-hand man in exchange for a true and actual stop to the Ackerman persecution. So now it's actually done, for real this time. Kenny has a sister named Kuchel, and she was living in the underground city as a prostitute in order to hide from the persecution. She had a son named Levi, and in the 820s, at some point, she dies, leaving little Levi all alone until Kenny finds him, teaches him how to fight, essentially awakening his Ackerman strength. But then Kenny leaves, and Levi doesn't learn that Kenny is his uncle for like a very long time. Just to note, I should have mentioned this earlier, is that green is anything that takes place on Marley, blue is anything that takes place on Paradise, white is anything that takes place somewhere else. So this can be in like an unknown location or like in the coordinate or something. And then I'll have like yellow sticky notes that were for me to know spoilers. So back on Marley, Grisha had been working as a doctor, and he decides to join the Eldian Restorationists after he was recruited by a man named Grice. So the Restorationists, they devised for a plan to take back the Founding Titan from the Fritz family on Paradise, and this plan would be possible for two reasons. Because one, Dinah Fritz, a secret descendant of King Fritz, is part of the Restorationists, meaning they have royal blood. They don't know that the vow-renouncing war would also get passed down and render their plan useless, but aim for effort. The second reason is two, they have a secret informant named the Owl, who is our old friend Aaron Kruger, who has been passing them relevant info from the inside. So Grisha and Dinah, is it Dinah or Dina? I don't know why I'm forgetting it. I have a friend named Dina, so I'm getting confused. But they fall in love, and in 825, they get married and have a baby named Zeke. Around this year, the Marleyan nation starts to get a little desperate. So now we're getting into some of those more large-scale politics. They're out of resources, and their technology is starting to lag behind that of other nations. So, you know, where there's a lot of fuel and oil and resources though, Paradise, also I say oil, it's not really oil, but fuel. It's kind of an analog for real life, huh? All that and more is on Paradise. So they start spreading the story that King Fritz has declared war, that this bad Eldian king of the island is going to use the founding power to awaken the colossal titans and start the rumbling that is going to flatten the entire earth. Marley has to act now, guys. It's so serious. And they need all the really good Eldians, all the boys and girls, to compete for the honor of inheriting a shifter titan, the honor of only living 13 years, to be a warrior, to go to Paradise and reclaim the founder. So here they start sort of that mission. Again, it's a very long scale mission. They gotta find these Eldians who are gonna inherit the Titans, train them up, do whatever. They also don't realize that the vow-renouncing war is a thing. That's a question I'm gonna revisit later. But anyways, that whole operation to retake the founder, that starts to happen now in 825. So around that same time, there is another Eldian living in Marley named Tom Xaver. He's pretending to be a Marleyan. He falls in love with a Marleyan woman. He has a baby with her. All is amazing until she learns that he and their child are Eldians, have Eldian blood, and she kills herself and she kills the child. This destroys Mr. Xaver, obviously, and he decides to he just like sort of sneaks back into like the internment zone, like I don't know, nobody catches him, whatever, but he decides to train to become one of these warriors for a few reasons. One, because he's fascinated with the Titans and can learn more about them by inheriting a Titan and by inheriting their memories, and two, because he wants to kill himself in a really grand way, and with a 13-year lifetime limit that is going to end with you getting eaten. Great choice, I guess. So he trains to be a warrior, and eventually he inherits the Beast Titan in 829. I'm like just running back and forth. So in 830, Grisha and Dinah start to train their son Zeke to become a Titan warrior so that he'll be able to use his royal blood, eat the founder, and inherit its powers. Poor 5-year-old Zeke starts going through a lot. He has his grandparents. Remember, these are the same parents who just kind of like went with the story that their daughter was just died when she was actually eaten by dogs. They're telling him, the rest of society telling him that Eldians are monsters who must atone for the sin of their forefathers, and then he's got his parents in the other ear telling him that these are lies, that Eldia is great, that the Eldian nation is great, Ymir was a goddess, and that he's going to be the one to restore that great nation to its height. So that's a lot for a 5-year-old mind to take. He's also not really great at his training, and for a while it seems really unlikely that he's going to be competitive enough to inherit a Titan. Grisha and Dina are very, very concerned. After a few years of training in 832, Zeke meets Mr. Kasaver, who acts as a father figure because his dad is just so like focused on making him a warrior. Because while he was training Zeke, he again was not a doting father. Mr. Kasaver was playing catch with Zeke, was doing whatever, actually talking to him, actually making an effort. So one day Zeke overhears Marlene officers are closing in on restorationists, namely Dina and Grisha, and he confides in Mr. Kasaver, and Mr. Kasaver's like, kid, it's not fair that they put this on you, and if you don't turn them in, you and your grandparents are just going to get shipped off to paradise, turned into Titans, and let loose. So Zeke decides to report Grisha and Dina in order to keep the possibility of him becoming a warrior, and in order to save a restorationist plan. We'll get into why he still has that plan in a minute. But Grisha and Dina don't know that he still plans on carrying out something, so they just think that he's betrays them. Grisha, Dina, and a bunch of the other restorationists are gathered and taken to paradise so that they can be turned. The restorationist Grice, who recruited Grisha, he's also caught, and in order for his family to escape without punishment, the Grices offer their nephew Colt to the Marlene military as a warrior candidate. Remember that for later. Once on paradise, Grisha sees the two officers, so they take him to paradise, they like line him up, they're about to turn them into the Titans, and Grisha sees the two officers who were there when Faye died, so Aaron Kruger and the other dude. They turn Dina into a Titan. She has a lovely smile. They turn everyone else into Titans, and then Aaron Kruger pushes the other Marlene soldier off the wall into a bunch of the Titans. So he dies, and then Aaron Kruger's like, I'm the owl. He tells Grisha the real story of King Fritz, that King Fritz has no intention to start a rumbling. He tells Grisha that Grisha is going to inherit the Attack Titan, and that he has to go to the walls to continue the restorationist plan. He also mentions that Grisha must save Mikasa and Armin. And this was a message that at some point he received from our yet unborn protagonist, Eren Yeager. But Grisha's like, who is that? And Aaron Kruger is like, I don't know. But you have to save them. So after this, he turns Grisha, and Grisha eats him. Grisha now has the Attack Titan. With the Titan, he heads to the outer wall Maria, and while he's like wandering outside the wall, he meets a scout named Keith Shadis. He pretends that he has no memory, and he starts his new life in Maria as a doctor inside the district of Shiganshina. As a doctor, he's able to get closer to interior officials and investigate where Fritz's bloodline actually is, because he's like, I'm gonna bet that he like set up a fake king, because he's smart. In Shiganshina, Keith Shadis introduces him to a woman named Carla, and they fall in love. Keith goes on to be the commander of the scouts, and he's sad because he was in love with Carla, and that sucks. Sorry to Keith. In 835, we have Eren Yeager is born. Can you believe that? All of that, and the protagonist was just born. He's named Eren Yeager. Grisha obviously names him after Aaron Kruger. In the same year, a royal named Rod Reese, so that's King Yuri's brother, secret King Yuri. Rod Reese has an affair with a maid and has a daughter named Historia. Obviously, kids born out of wedlock, especially for a royal family, are like not super, you're not really trying to publicize that. So he hides the child and hides the mother on a farm. The mom like hates Historia because she basically ruined her possibility for life. She kind of had the idea that like, okay, I'm gonna have the king's baby, or not the king, but the royal prince, I don't know, I'm gonna have his baby, that might elevate my status a little bit. No, you're getting shipped off to a farm. She literally hates Historia, doesn't talk to her, doesn't look at her. Ew. So later in 835 or possibly 836, Grisha locates the Reeses and their family chapel. And he knows that they're the royal family who he must eat to gain the powder, but out of guilt, he just can't kill them. And this is where we get into a lot of the time travel weirdness, because adult Eren and adult Zeke from the future, they make contact with Grisha through the paths. And future Eren realizes that Grisha can see them because Grisha's like, Zeke, is that you? But Zeke is confused because he knows Grisha doesn't eat the Rices here. He didn't know that he knew where the Rices were this far before he kills them. Spoiler alert, he's gonna kill them. That's weird, but we're gonna revisit that. So a few years later in 842, back on Marley, Xaver and Zeke are discussing some of the research that Mr. Xaver has done on the Titans, and they discuss how through the coordinate, the founder can change the physiology of all Eldians. Again, there was that instance where the founder made it so that they were all immune to a plague. Mr. Xaver somehow knows about the vow-renouncing war, probably because he got it through memories, and Xaver and Zeke hatch a plan for Zeke to try to get the founder and use it to make all of these Eldians sterile. They call this the euthanasia plan. That's their whole plan to solve Eldian subjugation. I call it the forced sterilization plan because that's what it is. It's bad. So Mr. Xaver also realizes and reveals an important point, and that's that in order to use the founder without triggering the vow-renouncing war kind of brainwashing that goes on, Zeke, as a Titan, must touch the founding Titan. But the decision of what to do with the founder power is going to rest with he who has the founding Titan. So Zeke has to make sure that it resides in somebody that he trusts. Later that year, Zeke wins warriorship. Congratulations! It's also kind of implied that Zeke never really got better at his training, but that he was only able to become a warrior and inherit the Beast Titan because Mr. Xaver was advocating on his behalf, because he was kind of blowing it. Speaking of inheriting Titans, 843 was a big year for inheritance, okay? Let's give it up for inheritance. So time is up on old Yuri Rice. So Frida Rice, Rod's daughter, inherits it. So she eats her uncle, inherits the founder in the chapel, in like the cave under the chapel, and just like everybody else, vow-renouncing war, she's like, before she was like, okay, I'm gonna like tell you guys what I learned, blah blah blah. No, not gonna tell anybody anything. In Marley, in the same year, we've got 5 more inheritance, guys. 5 Eldian warriors inherit the Titans. So we already had Zeke and the Beast. Let's get to know our warriors. So first up, we have Pink Finger, inheritor of the Cart Titan. We've got Bertolt Hoover, inheritor of the Colossal Titan. Then we have Annie Leonhardt, inheritor of the Female Titan. Annie was raised by an adopted father for the sole purpose of raising his status so he could get some clout, but he might have a little soft spot for her yet. We have got Marcel Galliard, who is inheritor of the Jaw Titan. Then we have Marcel's little brother, Porco. Just kidding. Marcel did not want his little brother to only live for 13 years. Imagine that. Doesn't sound too great. So he kind of lies a little bit and makes Reiner Braun our final warrior inheriting the Armored Titan. So those are our new warriors, and they are led by Marleyan Commander Theo Magath and Captain Zeke Yeager. Wow, amazing. But let's get back to Paradise. So back on Paradise in 844, we get to meet Mikasa Ackerman, who is a young girl, very special. She's half Ackerman, half Azumabito. So we're finally meeting the lost Azumabito heir. And in 844, Mikasa's Azumabito mother gives Mikasa a brand on her wrist and makes her hide it. So her mom was the Azumabito, her dad was the Ackerman side. Later that year, 2 men break into Mikasa's house looking to kidnap and sex traffic her mother because she's Asian and fetches a higher price for it. The men kill her father. I guess he never had his awakening. I don't know, dude kind of choked, whatever. Her mother fights, but they end up killing her too. And Mikasa understandably freezes up, and even though her mother tells her to run, she is kidnapped. Grisha and Aaron Yeager arrive at the Ackerman residence because they were due for a little doctor's visit. It's implied that, or not implied, I think it's basically said that they've known each other for a long time because Grisha is like the family doctor. They discover this grisly scene. Then they find the cabin where the kidnappers have taken Mikasa, and Grisha's like, Aaron, wait here, I'm going to get help. And Aaron is like, no. So he goes in, he kills one of the men, doesn't see the other, so he gets attacked by the other man. And then Aaron is like telling Mikasa, he's like, you have to fight, Tatakai, and awakens her Ackerman power. So they both kill the man. Aaron takes his scarf and wraps it around the little traumatized Mikasa. And that's where the scarf will stay for a long time. Zooming back into Marley in the same year, they are embroiled in conflict because, again, I don't know, it's just like normal. They're just having conflicts, whatever. They start to experiment with Titan powers and with Zeke's power specifically. They don't know that he's royal, but they're like, oh, your spinal fluid is really weird. It does some really weird things. So they test out some things with that. They feed his spinal power. They feed his spinal power. Oh my God. They feed his spinal fluid to several Eldians, and then they just let them loose into an enemy nation's capital. And then when Zeke screams, they all transform and demolish the city. And in 844, this is the first time that Marley uses one of these attacks, and they're like, that's pretty good. Let's save that for later. Finally, 845, the year the manga actually starts in. I'm so sorry that we're just now there. So 845 is a big year. There are 3 big years in the story, and it's 845, 850, and then 854 is a big meaty one. In 845, the Marley warrior unit is finally ready to start, and they have set up the warriors. They've chosen them for who's going to actually lead this operation to retake the founder, because it's time to infiltrate paradise and retrieve the founder Titan. Remember, they announced this back in 830, so it's been a good 15 years. It's time to get this going. Peak and Zeke are chosen to stay back on the mainland because their Titans aren't like primed for the work, whatever. So they send Annie, Reiner, Marcel, and Bertolt to Paradise, and their mission is to put a hole into Wall Maria, use the chaos to infiltrate the walls, find the founder, retrieve the founder by any means necessary. So they land on Paradise, and on their way to Wall Maria, a pure Titan who had been just sleeping underground bursts out. Remember our friend all the way from back here, little fake Ymir, who was revered as a god and then exiled? Well, here she is. Here her pure Titan form is. She tries to eat Reiner, but Marcel pushes him out of the way, and instead he is eaten. Ymir now has the Jaw Titan, but she escapes before Annie, Bertolt, Reiner can do anything about it, because Reiner just ran away and the rest of them kind of just chased after him. So after getting the second lease on life, Ymir decides she's not going to save anyone anymore because she got herself here by trying to save everybody else in this like religious group, when she could have just like run or tried to get away or something. So she's not going to do that anymore. She's going to live for herself. She has the right to do that because she was born. Therefore, she has the right to life. We'll hear this idea several times. Annie and Bertolt, they want to return to Marley because like Marcel was like the one who was supposed to lead the group. Like, this is like very bad. Like, you have not even gotten to the walls. But Reiner disagrees because they're like going to be fed to new candidates if they like come back with a failure that early. It's not going to be good. So instead, Reiner is like, you need a Marcel, I'm your Marcel. I'm the leader of the group now. Our old pal Keith Shadis, he leads an expedition outside the walls because remember, he is commander of the Survey Corps, captain of the Survey Corps, leader of the Survey Corps, whatever. And this expedition is a huge and massive failure, and they return to Shiganshina. This is also the day that humanity remembered. So Eren wakes up from a dream under a tree. Mikasa is like, wake up, Eren, we have stuff to do. He wakes up and she's like, why are you crying? He's like, I don't know, I don't remember my dream, but I just feel like I woke up from a really, really long dream. So Eren and Mikasa, after that, they head back to where all the people are in the city because they were just kind of like in like a field in Shiganshina. Eren argues with Hannes, who is one of the garrison. They hear that this expedition has returned, and Eren's like, OMG, let's go see the scouts. I love the scouts, big fan. Keith Shadis comes in. The scouts and him, like, they're all really sad because it was a massive failure. Their numbers are like completely dwindled, and a mother of one of the soldiers asks Keith what happened to her son. And Keith is only able to present her with the soldier's arm. And she asked him, did he serve humanity? And Keith just completely like breaks down. He's completely broken because he realizes he's not special, he's not right to do this. And he also realizes that like, no, his death didn't matter. The soldier's death didn't do anything. It didn't help the mission. It was like completely in vain. And after this, Keith decides to resign as commander of the Corps, and he passes the torch to Aaron Smith. So after seeing this massive failure, Aaron's like, I kind of want to be a scout. But he's like, please don't tell my parents because like they're not going to listen to it. Because after Misa's parents like were brutally murdered, she just lives with the Jaegers now. So she doesn't listen. She tells the Jaegers later that day, and his mom's like, please Please don't do that. That's like a death sentence. And Grisha's like, okay, well, I have to go to a doctor's appointment, but when I come back, we're gonna talk about what is in the basement that you've never been allowed to go in your entire life. Because Grisha sees himself in Eren, and just as Grisha sought freedom from the confinements of Liberio, and sought to push the limits and to go see the airships, Eren seeks the freedom. He wants to see what's outside the walls. And Grisha thinks that he might be able to help him with this restorationist plan. Grisha's like, ooh, another child, my perfect little aide. But at least Eren is like 11 or 12, not freaking 5. Learned a little bit, I guess. After this, Eren storms off after being yelled at by Carla. Mikasa goes after him, and they meet up with their friend Armin, and Mikasa stops Armin from getting beaten up by bullies. They talk a bit, but then disaster strikes. Bertolt, as the Colossal Titan, he like peeks up over the walls, kicks through the gate, and Reiner, as the Armored Titan, he enters Shiganshina and destroys the inner gate of Shiganshina. With this, a bunch of pure Titans storm through because they're always kind of outside the walls in this town. So after this, Bertolt untransforms, enters as a human. But when he kicked a gate, a chunk of a wall landed on the Jaeger house, trapping Carla inside and crushing her legs. Eren and Mikasa run to the house and try to get her out, but they can't lift the beam that she's pinned under, and Dino Princess Titan is rapidly approaching. Hannes, the garrison soldier, he thinks about fighting her, but he just completely freezes up. And at Carla's behest, he carries Mikasa and Eren to safety. Eren fights him the whole time. Dina eats Carla, and Eren sees this, and this is very, 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 very formative for him, obviously. So Grisha is away from Shiganshina when the wall falls, and he comes up with a plan when he hears that. He figures that Frida Rice could use the Founding Titan to get all the pure Titans to stop their attack. So he goes to the cave under the chapel, and Frida is like, I'm not going to do that, because remember that vow renouncing war? It's really just a vow to do nothing and wait until the Marleys try to wipe out all Eldians, and this kind of seems like this is Marley trying to wipe out all the Eldians, so I'm just going to sit tight and do nothing, essentially. And this is where we have some more confusing time travel, because at this point, future Zeke and future Eren once again talk to Grisha, or see Grisha through the coordinate, and this time they actually talk to him. Eren is like, you have to eat Frida. You have to get the Founder Titan. And Grisha's like, I can't do that. I can't do that because, you know, I'd be killing this kid, but also he would basically have to kill the rest of the Rices, otherwise they'd like know about him and try to get the Founder back. But future Eren essentially compels Grisha to do this and to kill everyone by showing him specific memories, specific future memories. We don't really know which ones, but suffice it to say it was enough to manipulate him to go through with it. So Grisha goes through with it, completely breaks down, but obtains the Founder and kills all the Rices except for Rod Rice. After that, Grisha tells Zeke that Eren is going to start the rumbling. Again, this is all future Eren, so I'm talking about older Eren, is going to start the rumbling, and he begs Zeke to stop him. But despite saying that, after Zeke and Eren go on and do their stuff way later on, leave the coordinate, Grisha still turns little Eren and gives him the basement key, gives him the Founder and the attack, and I'm not fully sure why he gives him the Founder. I'm guessing that he thought he was kind of out of options because his term was up. He got the Founder in 832, so his term is like up. And we can kind of understand that when he was going, like he was planning on having Eren eat him, because he was like, I'll show you what's in the basement. It's also gotta feel like kind of futile to stop the future when basically he just saw the rumbling already happen. So we'll revisit that chain of events later, but from Grisha's perspective, he sees this and then still gives Eren the Titan. He has Eren eat him, but he leaves him with the basement key. After this, Eren is just left in the woods, but Eren now has the Attack Titan and the Founder Titan. Keith Shadis, our old pal, finds Eren in the woods and takes him back to where all the refugees are staying, because after the wall fell, they were all refugees, they all went somewhere else. After the fall, Wallace gain a lot of power. So these are people who just worship the walls. They're sort of like a religious group. They gain a lot of power because obviously a lot of people are worshiping the walls now that they see what happens when they're not there. Meanwhile, Reiner, Bertolt, and Annie and Ymir are inside. Ymir's not with their group, but she also got inside during the chaos. And Reiner, Annie, and Bertolt are in camp with the rest of the refugees, and they hear a story from a man whose town was attacked by Titans. After the man tells them the story, he kills himself, and Bertolt is like, that was a really good backstory. I'm going to take that and use that for later. I mean, I'm being like a little bit like jokey. He like, it's more like internalized guilt that makes him take the story, but whatever. That becomes his backstory in the future. Following the death of his entire legitimate family in 845, Rod Reese goes to pick up Historia from the farm so that he can have a legitimate heir and legitimate bloodline, because he understands the importance of royal blood. And this way he can actually have somebody to pass the Founding Titan to if he ever gets it back. It's a little unclear as to why the interior squad is there at the farm when he gets there, but the interior squad, the military police, they're there. I'm not sure why they decide at this moment that Historia and her mom have to die, but I suspect it might be because the interior police, they're kind of in cahoots or whatever with the Wallace. They've all gained more power after the fall, but whatever. They're there. Rod gets there. He's like totally spineless. So he basically agrees to the lie that Historia is not his kid. And they agree to let Historia go to the military and be a cadet under the false name Krista Lenz. I think the idea here is that Rod could keep him moderately happy, and Krista was like probably gonna die in the military anyways, because like, you're fighting Titans, that's not really successful. Or at the very least they would be where the interior and the Wallace could keep an eye on her. But motivations aside, Historia is now Krista Lenz, and she is in like military training. 845 was the year that changed everything for Paradise, and at the end of 845, most of our characters we know are living and working in these refugee settlements, and everything is messed up. The Church of the Wall has a lot of power, and Eren has the founder and the Attack Titan, but he doesn't remember any of that. So now we're in 846. Not much happens in 846. It's a pretty quiet, It's a pretty quiet year. But the government inside the walls is facing a big problem, because when all of Wall Maria fell, that basically reduced a third, actually I think more than a third, a lot of the living areas for humans. Too many people, not enough food. They lost also all the farmland, they lost all the livestock inside Maria, but they have a really great and humane solution, and they chose a bunch of random people, including Armin's parents, to lead an operation to reclaim Wall Maria. Would you believe that this operation, led by a bunch of random people, fails and everyone dies? Who knew? The government was basically like, oh, that sucks, but like it was done on purpose. This was just a farce to kill off a lot of people to have more food. The only other thing that happens in this year is Ymir, the human Ymir, she is living by sneaking around in the interior, and she hears a conversation about how Wallace are keeping an eye on a girl who is an illegitimate royal heir, given a new name and sent to the cadet corps. Ymir decides to join after hearing this, sort of out of curiosity about this girl. Oh my goodness. So then we'll move on to 847, another quiet year. Marlians are just business as usual, waiting to see how the warriors make out. So we'll be focusing on Paradise for a little bit longer. We have Sasha Blouse, a girl living in a hunting village in the forest, and she has a really formative conversation with her dad about like world connectedness. I'm obviously reaching for things to talk about in 847. But Reiner, Annie, and Bertolt, they also decide to join the cadet corps and the military police, because they think that getting closer to the interior is the key to finding the founder. And they do this. So Ymir joins also, Krista joins, that girl Sasha joins, a boy named Kanye from a village called Ragako joins, a kid named Jean joins, Armin, Mikasa, and Eren. All these people join the cadet corps where they start their military training. So they all have different motives, but they do that. So when training starts, our old pal Keith Shadis, he tries to hold Eren back by sabotaging his equipment, and he does this because he thinks that Eren is going to meet a horrific fate if he leaves the walls. Like, yeah, probably true. And he wants him to be safe for Carla's sake, but ultimately he can't keep Eren from moving forward because the Attack Titan moves forward. That's what it does. So in 848, all of our little where's 840? So in 848, all of our little cadets are in training. They have an exercise on the mountain in the wintertime. Ymir, Krista, and Daz, another trainee, they're all in a group together, and Daz gets injured and it's looking like he's gonna die. They're all gonna die on the mountain trying to get him back to base. Ymir actually transforms into her Titan form in order to save Daz, but Krista doesn't see. And then back at base, Ymir decides to reveal how she saved him, so long as Krista promises to go by her real name when Ymir reveals her secret to everyone. So that's a little promise. It's a sweet little moment. We'll see the outcome of the promise later. During many nights in this training period, Annie sneaks into the interior to surveil the church group because she's like, they probably know something. Also, Annie's getting rightfully annoyed because she's literally the only person like doing anything. Bert and Reiner are doing like nothing but just like training. And yeah, they're trying to train well so that they can be in the top 10 of the cadets so that they can join the military police and hopefully find more. But like, do something. Also, they're getting like really friendly. Annie's very like hostile, not hostile per se, but like more standoffish, and they're just like cozying up with the enemy essentially. And she's right, like they literally do nothing. So that's just another little thing that's going on. She's put in the work and they're doing nothing. So 849, our last quiet year, there's some more training. Annie teaches Aaron a little like kicking maneuver. The Survey Corps runs its 34th expedition where a woman named Ilsa Langard dies. And Hanji Zoe is another person in the Survey Corps. She finds Ilsa's journal where Ilsa mentioned a Titan who spoke to her. And Hanji's like, that's interesting because I didn't think Titans could speak. And the Titan called her Ymir because Ilsa was another woman who looked like Ymir, supposedly. But I hope you enjoyed those chill 5 years because now we're in 850. Which is, again, the second meatiest show, or the second meatiest year of the show. 850, all of our little friends are finished with their training. Only the top 10 trainees get to join the military brigade, the military police, and the interior. I didn't go into explain the system. No one cares about the garrison, okay? No one even really cares about the military police until, for like the whole time. But there's the military police, there's the garrison, there's the Survey Corps. Only the top 10 can join the military police. Everybody in the top 10 is like, do I want to join the military police? Do I want to join the Survey Corps? Most people automatically don't want to join the Survey Corps because those are the people who go outside the walls, or now that Maria has been destroyed, go outside of Rose. Basically, the only people who fight Titans. Nobody wants to do that. But Annie, Bertolt, Reiner, they've been inside the walls for 5 years. They've honestly learned nothing. It's actually so pathetic. I know they're kids, but like, dude, like nothing? That's crazy. So sort of like a last ditch effort, they decide in 850 that they're going to break another wall at Trost. So on wall Rose to see if the founder will appear. They're like, our little cadets are having a really touching moment, and Bertolt is like, oh my god, this is perfect. So he turns into the Colossal Titan, breaks through the outer wall at Trost, and the Battle of Trost begins. Again, like last time, he appears, kicks through the door, and disappears. So all of our cadets are given different orders to protect Trost, and going through just the broad strokes, Aaron saves Armin from being eaten by an old man, and this old man is actually a Titan from the Restorationists. If you look at these scenes, a lot of the Titans are faces that you will recognize from flashbacks of the Restorationists. So he's eaten. Mikasa saves the evacuation efforts by getting Dima Reeves to unblock the inner gate. A young girl named Louise sees this and she's like, wow, that Mikasa's amazing. Formative moment. Marco, another one of the cadets, he overhears Bertolt and Reiner talking about things, basically talking about how they're like Titans and traitors and whatnot. And they're like, oops. So they steal his ODM gear, like maneuvering gear, and they leave him for dead. So then he dies. We start to see this like psychotic snap essentially in Reiner, where like right after he kills Marco, he's like, why is Marco getting eaten? And Bertolt and Annie are like, oh my god, this is so bad. Like these poor kids, like your leader gets like eaten immediately. I don't know, I feel bad for him. It's bleak for them, but Marco's dead, whatever. So after being eaten like, he's eaten by the Titan, Aaron's eaten by the Titan, but that Titan doesn't, like, actually break his spinal fluid, so he's just, like, chilling in the stomach. But after that, Aaron transforms for the first time, because, again, he didn't know he was a Titan, so he transforms when he's, like, injured and starts thinking about fighting, whatever. He starts fighting off the Titans and saving the town. He's kind of in, like, a fugue state. I hope you can see me. He doesn't, like, know what he's doing, but He's fighting, saving the town. The military is like, we have to kill this guy though, right? Like, he's a Titan. Armin and Mikasa defend him with their words, and General Pixis decides to, I don't know if you can see that. General Pixis, general of the garrison, that's just the army, I don't know, decides to give Eren a chance. So Reiner, Annie, and Bertolt, just like a fun little Easter egg, they also are like defending Eren's Titan. Even before they know it's Eren, they're like, no, we should probably like not kill this guy. It's definitely not, because he probably has the founder Titan. But yeah, they're right, I mean, Eren has the founder. But so Reiner, Annie, and Bertolt, remember, they were the ones who attacked Trost. I think their initial plan was, they were like, fuck it, let's destroy another wall. Let's destroy the inner wall if we don't find this guy. So they found the founder, so they stop, but they don't breach the inner wall, because their stupid little plan worked. Who knew? So Pixis is able to convince everybody else to give Eren a chance to prove himself, and Eren uses a big boulder in his Titan form to plug the gate at Trost. Yippee! The Surface Corps and the garrison, they help to clear Trost of all the Titans. Hanji captures 2 Titans named Sunny and Bean for her Titany research. But Eren being a human/Titan, this obviously shakes everything up. People didn't even know if that was that was like a possibility. People are really confused, they're scared, and a lot of the smarter folks are starting to wonder if this means that the Colossal and the Armored Titan are also humans. And what about the Pure Titans? Like, are they human? Like, what are they? The Interior, they hold a military tribunal for Eren to figure out what they can do with him. So the Survey Corps thinks that they can use him as a tool. And the military police want to kill him and dissect him to learn more about other Titans, and also probably because somebody is like, this is bad. This is very bad. You know, the people who know about the outside world and who don't want everyone else to know about the outside world. But anyways, they have this tribunal, and the result of it is that Eren is going to join the Survey Corps, and Levi Ackerman, our little orphan who has now grown up and very high up in the Survey Corps, he's going to take him out if he ever poses a danger, because Levi is cool enough to do it. So like I mentioned, Reiner, Annie, and Bertolt are pretty sure that this means that Eren holds the founder, but they need some time to regroup and whatnot. And they're also a little concerned that the Paradise Eldians have 2 Titans to research on, Sunny and Bean. So Annie takes Marco's old odium gear and she uses it to get into where these Titans are held, and she kills them and leaves. And then Eren says something really ominous to Eren, because Eren's one of the smart guys. He knows that there's people outside the walls. After this, everybody in our little cadet corps group, they get to choose which branch of the military they're joining. So Annie sticks with the plan. She chooses the military police in order to see what they know in the interior, and then Bertolt and Reiner, they go to the Survey Corps with Eren in order to keep close to him until they can make their next move. Armin, Mikasa, Jean, Connie, and Sasha, they joined the Survey Corps too, all for unique reasons I'm not gonna go into. And then under Hanji and Levi, this forms the 104th Survey Corps. Yippee! So for a month, our really smart commander, Erwin Smith, he starts thinking, he starts planning, because like I said, he's smart. He's starting to think that the Armored and the Colossal are people. And remember his childhood, he thinks that they came from outside the wall, and he's also just morbidly curious. He's dying to know if his dad was right. He's also figuring if they came from outside the wall, that means that they're looking for something inside the wall, and he thinks that this is Eren. So Erwin plans the 57th expedition outside the wall, or into Maria territory, and this expedition has a really specific organization for like the soldiers, and every section of the group is told that Eren is at a different location. So basically he's just trying to smell out any like moles or whatnot. So on this expedition, Annie, as the female Titan, she appears and she goes after a specific area where Bertolt and Reiner thought that Eren would be. So Armin's in this area, he notices the female Titan, notices that she's like not acting like other Titans, and she seems intelligent. So he works out that she's after Eren, and he tells this to Reiner. And Reiner is like, oh, that's weird. Like, do you know where Eren is? Or Armin doesn't, but he's also very smart, and he's like, okay, well, it'll probably be in the center in like this spot. And he shares that hunch to Reiner. Annie and like Reiner like pretend to fight, and Reiner carves the location into Annie's hand. Armin like notices this, but like isn't like fully sure if that's what he saw, but like that that's what he saw, but he'll remember that for later. Then the expedition, like, Annie's still going after Aaron. Aaron and Levi and everybody, they head into a forest. Annie goes after Aaron into the forest, but Aaron had laid a trap. So the trap kind of works, but like a lot of people die. A lot of people, I'm so sorry to all the people who die in the story, because I'm not going to say every single one, but that kind of would have been cool to know. But anyways, a lot of people die. Aaron transforms to fight the female Titan, and long story short, Annie gets away, and a lot of people die again, and none worth mentioning. Sorry. After this failure, Aaron and Erwin are summoned to the interior, and Armin shares his suspicions that Annie is the female Titan, for a few reasons. One, because she had Marco's gear, and they kind of figure out that she must have used like Marco's gear to kill Sunny and B. That whoever killed Sunny and B must have used Marco's gear, because nobody else's gear had like lost gas or whatever. That's why she's somebody else's gear. But anyways, he also notices that like her fighting technique as the female Titan is very similar to Annie's fighting technique, that like little taking maneuver that she taught Aaron years ago. There's also just some other factors. Aaron does not want to believe this because nobody likes betrayal, but Hanji, Levi, and Erwin are like, yeah, that kind of makes sense. So they lay a trap in the interior. Only a few of the core members, Hanji, Levi, Erwin, Aaron, Mikasa, Armin, and Jean, they go to the interior to execute this plan, and the rest of our little Survey Corps people, they stay back. So that portion is also left without their ODM gear, because the Survey Corps, like inner circle, I'll call them, they're concerned that Annie might have a few little friends with her, so they don't want them to be armed. So we'll be kind of bouncing back and forth between these two sections of the Survey Corps for a little bit. So another thing that's sort of been happening in the background is that Marley has been getting very antsy, wondering how the operation is going, because they don't really have communications with Annie, Bertolt, Reiner, and I think they still think Marcel's alive. So don't forget again that like the whole motivation for this operation is like the resources and for like this political like kind of clout, because as time ticks away, countries are more and more seeing Marley as a target. So Marley's like, we need the founder, we need the resources. They're getting antsy. So they send Zeke over to check on some things and to test out some stuff, and just to kind of like harass Paradise Eldians just a little bit. Zeke sucks. I don't know what else to say. So at some point in 850, he sneaks in with some Marleyan forces, and is using a base. He's staying at Castle Utgaard, these like old ruins, as his base. So while the interior, the like inner circle of the Survey Corps squad is doing their plan to smoke out Annie, Zeke and his little group, they head to a nearby village of Ragako, but they use his like gaseous spinal fluid to turn everyone there into Titans as part of a recon and force operation. So the Corps and the garrison, they see these Titans and they assume that this means that Walrose has been breached. So they sound the alarm and they split up to find the hole in the wall. Our inner circle group, they arrive at Stohas, a city in the interior, and they set the trap for Annie. So basically the plan is that they ask her to help Aaron get out of the interior, because again, they've been summoned to this like another tribunal or whatever about the failure of the expedition, where they were supposed to trap the female Titan, or trap like a Titan or learn something, but they try to like lead her into this like underground tunnel so she can't transform, but she figures out the trap. She turns into her Titan and she fights Aaron and his attack Titan. Our group captures her, but she like encases herself in like this like little crystal, so they can't really like do anything with her. But in the Battle of Stohas, Aaron hits a portion of the wall, breaks it, and reveals one of the colossal Titans within. They cover it with like a makeshift quilt, because like Titans are like solar powered. That's like so random, but whatever. But now Armin and this little like interior circle group, they know that there are Titans inside the wall, which again, they didn't know that before. So Zeke is doing some recon in his Beast Titan form, and he comes across Mike, a Survey Scout member. He takes Mike's ODM gear and he has his Titans kill them. Back with the other Survey Corps members, the ones who were left without their ODM gear, they try to head out and evac the towns near the wall. But again, they don't have their gear, so that's kind of a hard job to do if they come across any Titans. Sasha heads into a town right near her like hunting village in the forest. and she saves a young girl named Kaya, and she like axes the Titan to death. It's very impressive, and then she like stabs its eye, whatever, because again, she doesn't have her gear. So that's cool. Our inner survey scout circle, they look at the Titan in the wall, and they're starting to realize that the Wallace and the church group probably know a little bit more than they've let on. So they realize that. They also realize that that means the monarchy knows. So they're like, okay, definitely is a conspiracy. And they do a little bit of extortion, a little bit of threatening to a pastor named Pastor Nick. He tells them that Krista Lenz has some answers because she is like a bastard royal. After they've confirmed that Annie is a traitor, Armin lays out the very compelling evidence against Reiner and Bertolt, mainly like the carving in the hand, the fact that they said they were all from the same village, that those are the only people that Annie ever talked to, really. But poor baby Aaron, he's not convinced. He's like, that's no. So they lay out another plan to see if they are traitors, and then they hurry off to go meet up with the rest of the Survey Corps to find Krista/Historia. So at this point, the garrison/Survey Corps, they finish searching for the hole in the wall, but there is no hole in the wall. So where did these Titans come from? They decide to regroup, and they spend the night at the ruins of some castle called Castle Utgaard. They go to spend the night there. We see a weird little convo between Ymir and Reiner where they find some of the Marleyan supplies, and Marleyans speak like a different language and have a different writing system, so none of the Eldians on Paradise can read it, but Ymir can read it, and Reiner is either pretending that he can't read it or he's experiencing another like psychotic break and like his Survey Corps persona like can't read it. But this conversation is interrupted by Zeke, who has sent Titans to Castle Utgaard. And then Zeke climbs up on top of Walrose and starts throwing rocks, killing all the horses so they can't escape. And then he heads back to Marley. Like, the dude sucks. I don't know why you're doing that. Especially like, whatever, I guess it's to keep up his like cover with the Marleyan army, but like don't forget, like he has his own secret plan to like sterilize all the Eldians because he thinks that that's like kinder. So like why are you terrorizing them before doing that if you think that that's like a kind and humane thing to do in the first place? But whatever. So Titans are attacking. It's mayhem. A lot of soldiers die. Again, sorry to them, but I don't know who they are. And faced with no other choice, Ymir turns into her Jaw Titan in order to try to save Historia/Krista and to save everyone else. We actually have a really great panel here where Bertolt is like about to do the same. Bertolt and Reiner realize for the first time that Ymir is the Titan who ate Marcel. Unfortunately, despite her best efforts, Ymir doesn't really do much to change the tide of the fight, but fortunately our inner circle squad group, they arrive to kind of help everybody out. Everyone's saved. Eren gets his first and only kill, Titan kill as in his human form. Amazing. But Ymir's really hurt. She's kind of down for the count while she heals, and Krista remembers her promise to Ymir. So Ymir's revealed her secret, and now it's time for Krista to do hers and to start going by Historia again. So she tells everybody her story about being a bastard, whatever. Then we have quite literally one of the best reveal scenes in history.
本当にこの世界はどうしちゃったんでしょうかね。エレン、俺たちは5年前壁を破壊して人類への攻撃を始めた。これが鎧の巨人で、こいつが超大型巨人。俺たちの目的はこの人類すべてに消えてもらうことだったんだ。お前が俺たちと一緒に来てくれるなら、俺たちはもう壁を壊したりしなくていいんだ。だから俺たちと一緒に来てくれって言ってんだよ。
This has the best song in like all of Attack on Titan history, although I love all the music from this show. But this version here is so good, so go listen to it. Reiner has just another little snap moment where he just tells Eren that he's the Armored Titan and Bertolt is the Colossal Titan, and he's like, could you just come with us? Like, and Eren's like, no. Mikasa comes so close to killing Bertolt, but no dice. And then Bertolt and Reiner both transform and they fight Eren. Eren actually comes like really close to beating them, but Bertolt uses like some like really creative maneuver, whatever. Bertolt and Reiner, they take Eren and they take the injured Ymir, because again, she has the Jaw Titan, and they flee to a forest outside of Walrose. Everyone else has to take a beat and recover from the damage done by Bertolt's like steam and the heat of his Colossal Titan. While in this forest, Eren listens in on Ymir and Bertolt and Ryan, their conversations, they decide to partner up, but he like does not understand anything. Ymir actually talks about how Zeke looks like a monkey, like if the Beast Titan looks like a monkey, and Aaron's like, what is a monkey? Like, what are you talking about? But basically, like, Ymir almost tells Aaron everything about the outside world, but Bertolt and Ryder sort of just convince her that Paradise has no chance against Marley, that if she wants to save herself, she has to side with them because there's no future for the people inside the walls. And she also thinks that Historia will be better off in Marley because, again, Ymir's been, like, gone for 60 years. I don't think she, like, really realizes, like, that they would definitely forcibly breed her for her royal blood. Like, it wouldn't be good for Historia in Eldia, sorry to say that. But regardless, she teams up with Bertolt and Reiner and decides to try to grab Historia when they can. So the Survey Corps goes after Aaron because they need him and they need his attack titan. Bertolt, Reiner, and Ymir grab Historia. Erwin gets his arm bitten off as he orders a charge. It's like a really cool scene. There's a mini battle, some like tug of war, some combos between our group and Bertolt and Reiner that like are about betrayal. It's really sad because I mean this is like upsetting for everybody. Like they've known these guys for like a long time now, and they've just been like they're the ones that ruined everybody's lives. Like that sucks. Mikasa gets Aaron away, but then they see like the smiling Titan like Dina Fritz. She eats Hannes. Sad. And Mikasa has like a very poorly timed heart-to-heart with Aaron, and Aaron doesn't really respond. Like, I can't really blame him. Like, girl, we are in the middle of something. Why are you telling me that you like love me, basically? Aaron goes to fight Dina just like out of just pure desperation. He just like goes to like punch her as a human. But when he punches her hand, remember she is a royal and he has the founding titan even though he doesn't know it, but he inadvertently triggers the founding titan for the first time. In the split second, he's just like kind of like wishing that like Reiner and them would like die essentially, so like all the titans in the area like swarm him. So Ymir chooses to go with Bertolt and Reiner for the reasons I said before, but also because she feels like she owes them because she took the Jaw Titan from Marcel. She can save Bertolt and Reiner some like punishment if she goes back with them. And even though she swore that she was going to live for herself, she can't help but live for someone else and just save someone else's life one last time. So Bertolt, Reiner, and Ymir, they go back to the shore on Paradise. They meet up with Zeke, and he puts 2 and 2 together and realizes that Aaron must be Grisha's son that he had in like the New World. He just thought that like Grisha died, but that Aaron must have touched Dina and accessed the power. So he doesn't share all of this with them, though. I don't think all of it. But he goes back to Marley. Ymir writes Historia a letter. It's really sad. And then Ymir is fed to poor Coup Galliard, Marcel's younger brother, who he tried to save from becoming a Titan. Okay, so at this point, our Survey Corps, our little Survey Corps circle, they know that the Interior knew a lot more than they let on. And our little group knows that they can't let the Interior have Aaron or Historia, even though they themselves don't know what the importance of Aaron is, what the importance of Historia is, or royal blood. Like they don't get it. But they know that they're important enough. So they have Aaron and Historia and the remaining Survey Corps members go into hiding on a farm while they get their brains together, try to make a plan, try to get some info. They need to look into the Rice family. They need to look to the connection to the crown. They need to get Aaron to be able to do hardening so that he could plug the hole in Wall Maria. Because again, he plugged Trost with a boulder, but they want him to plug Wall Maria, and they're like, well, the wall's made of hardening. Annie hardened, the armored titan had hardening on him. Like, you can do that too, right? Also, I'm laughing because this part, I hate this next part. I mean, I don't. It's really good, but if I have mistakes in this video, which I'm sure there will be, it's like I'm almost 99% sure it's going to be in this part. But nevertheless, she persisted. So Pastor Nick is murdered by the MPs at Roderick's order in an attempt to stop him from sharing information with our little Survey Corps group. And it's becoming very evident that the Interior sees the Survey Corps as a threat. And again, when I'm saying Survey Corps, I mean like our little squad. So Erwin's a threat to the peace. So they're starting to make moves to eliminate that threat. And in response, Erwin starts to plan out a coup at the same time that the military police demands that Aaron and Historia be turned in. So our squad heads back to Trost. And they have Armin and Jean dressed up as Historia and Aaron. And these two are kidnapped by Demo Reeves' company. So Jean and Armin get rescued, and then Levi strikes a deal with Demo Reeves, who owns the Reeves company in Trost, and Levi will give him Aaron and Historia if the Reeves company agrees to help the Survey Corps. Demo leads two military police members to Levi's hideout where they're trapped and tortured, revealing that the Reeses are the real royal family. They use this info to help plot the coup, and Erwin tries to get General Pixis on their side, but he's a little hesitant, but not totally. And the plan would be to install Historia as the queen, because if you think about it, it's like not really a coup. The King Fritz who's on the throne like is a fake king, so like you're installing like the real Fritz relative, but whatever, that's the plan. They also plan to have Demo hand over Historia and Aaron to the MPs in order to find Rod Reese. So they're like gonna like use them as like bait and like track them and whatever. But Kenny comes along and kills Demo Reeves, and Demo's son Flegel sees this happen. The Survey Corps is framed for the murder. Aaron turns himself in and makes Hanji commander should anything happen. Levi and team head to the interior to find Historia and Aaron. Levi fights Kenny, and a bunch of Levi's team dies. It's like really good episodes. But Rod Reese takes Historia and Aaron to the chapel. Hitch and Marlowe, two military police members, are captured by Squad Levi, and they actually end up helping the Survey Corps find the Interior Brigade compound because they think that Aaron and Historia were there. They're not there, obviously, they're at the chapel, but now Hitch and Marlowe are like kind of basically on the Survey Corps side. Hanji goes to Stohess and has newspaper journalists tell the truth, like just for a day. She's like, just report the truth for a day. This part is a little like Disney Channel moment, but whatever. But so they go to Trost, and with Flegel's help, they get the MPs to sort of like reveal their like actual plot, and then like the whole town hears, and they're like, see, everybody heard you, and then the MPs are like, no one will believe you. And then Hanji's like, well, we have reporters on our side. I don't know. Again, it's very like Disney Channel original movie moment, but it works. The journalists start to write up their story on it, and the coup plot kind of continues on. Aaron plots a little bit with Pixis before he starts his trial. Aaron's on trial, and this trial is before the fake King Fritz. So the trial is interrupted by a garrison soldier who lies and says that Walrose has been breached. Everyone in the interior is like, okay, well, we obviously have to shut down Walshina because if we get too many people in here, like, it's going to be chaos. There's not going to be enough food for us, blah, blah, blah. We just have to let everybody die. And the garrison and a lot of MPs refuse because they're like they live inside of Walrose. Their families live inside of Walrose, and they're supposed to just, like, shut that off, like, shut off the wall and, like, stop people from evacuating. Like, that's not cool. So then it's revealed that Pixis came up with this plan and like came up with this lie to show the corruption. So he was actually going to arrest Erwin if the interior was like, oh my god, yeah, let everybody in. But he kind of like knew that they weren't going to do that. So then Commander Zackley, another military dude, he arrests the nobles, exonerates the SC Survey Corps, and now Squad Levi is free to rescue Aaron and Historia without having to like hide around and everything. So this ends the coup. Down in the chapel, Rod Reese, and the cave under the chapel, I guess I should say, but Rod Reese explains the founder succession and how that works to Historia, along with the vow renouncing war. He doesn't know why the change in successors happens. Like, he doesn't know why they suddenly, like, become another person, essentially, when they eat the founder, but he knows that this change does happen. He tells Historia that she has to eat Aaron to regain the founder because the founder never should have left the Reese family. And also he says that she has to do it because he can't do it. Like, he can't turn into a Titan. Historia touches Aaron, and for a moment Aaron gets some of his memories back because he's touching royal blood. So he's able to access the coordinate a little bit, and he sees Grisha eating the Reeses. So again, remember like the time travel trickiness? Like, even though Aaron from the future already talked about it, Aaron from the past did not know that his father ate all of this. So he sees his dad eat the Reeses, but he doesn't see himself telling his dad to do it yet. So he sees that, and then he also sees that he ate Grisha. Again, to this point, he still thought his dad might be alive. And then he sees that Keith Shaddis found him in the woods. So that's that. Kenny arrives at the chapel, Levi arrives at the chapel, they fight, but then weirdly enough, Kenny's like, oh, I actually had planned to take the Titan serum and eat Aaron, and Rod Reese is like, okay, well, like, sorry to break it to you, like, that's not gonna work because you're an Ackerman, you can't turn into a Titan, and then Kenny's like, well, what was this all for then? And he leaves, but before he leaves, he like cuts Aaron's forehead and makes it look really cool, but he does that so that Aaron could fight and transform. And then he drops Rod Race's bag right near Aaron, but steals one of the Titan Serum like injection things. But the kicker is that Aaron is done too, because he saw that his dad like ate the Races, and he's like, well, maybe the founder like should be with its rightful bloodline, like maybe it's with the royal family for a reason. And then Historia is like, well, actually I don't want to eat Aaron and do all that. So she actually smashes the Titan Serum on the ground, and then Rod Race is like, okay, well, you forced my hand. So he like bends down and like licks up the serum. And turns into a Titan. And his Titan is like really massive and ugly. I'm not really sure how he knew that his Titan like doesn't function, essentially, like it's too big for its own good. But anyways, he's Titan now, and it's bringing the whole cavern down because he's so massive. Kenny gets hit with debris and is injured, but he makes it out. Aaron sees Rod Race's bag is right next to him, and he sees a little bottle, very like Alice in Wonderland style, that's like hardening serum, and he's like, okay, that's kind of what we were talking about, I need it. So he eats that, he transforms, and then he uses Titan hardening to stop the cave from collapsing, and he saves everyone. So that hardening serum, by the way, comes from Marley's earlier testing on the Eldians. So it was the same testing that created the Ackermans. They like made this like hardening serum, I guess, and then like King Fritz like absconded with it when he went to paradise. Now the whole little squad has to fight Rod Reese, who is headed to Orvud. Historia kills him in order to get the citizens more on her side for her regal instatement. And then Levi finds Kenny and he's dying. They talk for a bit. Kenny gives Levi the Titan Serum that he stole. He like tells him that like he's his uncle, and then he dies. Historia is now clean, and she kind of like randomly starts an orphanage on a farm, mainly for kids whose parents were like killed by Titans. I mean, it's like not that random, but it's just kind of like funny in line with like the rest of the story happening at this point. Then there's a 2-month period after this where our squad is training, the military elite is punished, like we have all the fallout of the coup, there's just some like general cleaning up to do. They discover that the chapel was made out of the shining ore that was useful. Hanji invents this like vertical battering ram thing. And then they confiscate the anti-military personnel's gear along with other tech that the military had been hiding. So again, when after this like fake king had been set up, and there had been this whole conspiracy to like stop everybody from learning about the outside world, part of what they did was like confiscate like technology. So like there's some scenes of like them confiscating like hot air balloons because you could very easily leave the walls. Like there's a reason why the like world inside the walls is so technologically behind. It's like people had been inventing things, but it had all just been like confiscated and whatnot. But so now they have access to like a lot of that. So if you ever like wondered in like the 4 years or 4 years between 850 and 854, like how Paradise expanded so much, there's a few reasons, but one of them is because they already had some of this tech on the island. It was just like hidden. But again, thank God that's the end of this Coup arc, because I don't know what it is. I've reread this and like rewatched this probably like 6 times at this point. I don't understand why it's like so impossible for me to just like keep track of all the moving parts, but it is. So hopefully I got it all there. So Zeke, Peek, Bertolt, and Reiner, that sounds so fun. They come back to Paradise, and they are waiting in Shiganshina for everybody to arrive, because they know that Aaron is like gonna try to get into the basement. Like they know that they need to retake Wall Maria. They know that they're gonna come there, so they're like, okay, we'll just wait here. He'll come, and we'll leave with him. Aaron and everybody, they've been getting ready for this operation to retake Wall Maria. Now that Aaron can do the whole hardening thing, because again, the plan is for him to like use the hardening to plug the hole. But before they leave, they decide to talk to our old pal Keith Shaddis about how he found Aaron and everything he knows about Grisha. He tells them how he met Grisha from outside the walls on a Survey Corps expedition. So now they have their second goal really, really solidified. In addition to retaking Wall Maria, they really want to access Aaron's dad's basement, because Aaron is basically now completely convinced that Grisha came from outside the walls and that there's key information in the basement. So with that, the operation to retake Wall Maria begins. And in my opinion, it's like one of the best arcs ever. So it's really good, and I can't possibly cover every single movement of it. So I'm just gonna kind of try to give the lowdowns. Okay, so they go to Wall Maria. Great. Armin steals the outer gate, amazing, goal achieved, and Armin and everybody's like, something's off, other people should be here. They find some like evidence of a camp nearby, but like they still went through with like the plan to seal the outer gate, but whatever. So then after they seal the outer gate, Zeke appears with his Beast Titan and he blocks the inner gate, trapping them in Shiganshina, and Reiner was hiding in the wall, but you can't fool Armin. You can't fool Armin. No, sir. So Eren and the squad, they fight Reiner, who almost dies. This man, he can't die. He like simply cannot die. It just comes too close every time, but never does. So right before he dies, he like transfers his consciousness into like another part of his body. So like that's something that Titans can do, whatever. Bertolt transforms and most of the Survey Corps in Shiganshina dies, but unfortunately, again, nobody we care about, but basically the entire Survey Corps besides the characters we know. Meanwhile, Zeke was going after the horses. He throws rocks at them, again, just like further trapping them in Shiganshina, because they left the horses outside of the inner gate, so inside of Wall Maria, but now they're destroyed. And Erwin gives one of like the best speeches ever and leads a final charge as a smokescreen so that Levi can go after the Beast Titan. Levi almost kills him. It is so close, but Peak in her cart Titan swoops in. Like Peak really is like Deus Ex Machina in like so many of these things, but she comes in and saves him. So Levi's alive, Erwin is mostly dead, and the only other person who survives this battle is the most annoying character of all time, Flock. And Flock drags Erwin back to the center of the city. Armin ends up burning to a sweet, savory crisp, trying to defeat the Colossal Titan. Well, they did defeat the Colossal Titan, so they have Bertolt in his human form, but Armin's burnt, but he's still alive. Reiner almost dies again and then gets caught by Hanji and Jean. He gives the letter that Ymir wrote for his story. He gives it to Hanji and then he comes in and saves him too. So they're gone now. Zeke, Peak, and Reiner. They're headed back to Marley. And now Levi has the Titan Serum. He has Bertolt. And he has the choice of who to feed him to, Armin or Erwin. I mean, obviously, like, it seems like it should be Erwin. He's like literally the commander of the Survey Corps, but in a wild upset, he chooses Armin. So Bertolt is now dead, and Armin has the Colossal Titan. And I really maintain that Armin inherited some of Bertolt's stupidity, because like after this point, like the dude does not have a good plan. Up until this point, Armin's figured out everything. Armin was the one who figured out that Annie was a Titan, that Bertolt and Reiner were working with her, that Reiner was hiding in the walls. Like, he's like Hanji's right-hand man, and like his intelligence is like part of why he gets chosen to like actually survive over Erwin. I'm like, he doesn't do anything with it. It's like as I was rewriting this, or like writing the script, I was like, did he do anything? And the answer is like, no, like not really after this point. Like, I don't know, Bertolt was a little stupid. It kind of makes sense that Armin is after he eats him, because we know that they inherit a little bit of their personality and whatnot. The battle is done now, the enemy is retreated, and now we can finally open the basement. Oh, another side note though is that with Erwin's dead body, they just put it in like some dude's like apartment or like house. They just like leave him to like rest in his bed, which like nice sentiment, whatever. But like once they clear Shiganshina, like people move back in, and like, I mean, I'm sure, you know, people found many dead bodies, but I also think there's like something very different about like a dead body in the street in this sort of circumstance, and like going in and find that somebody has like very obviously like laid a person to rest in your bed, but whatever. So in the basement, they find 3 books left by Grisha that tell basically everything that I've mentioned before Grisha got to Paradise. Obviously, it's from Grisha's point of view, so he doesn't know that Zeke has his own plan, because again, this whole time Zeke's been working off his own plan. He doesn't know like anything like that, but it basically tells the general history, the state of the world, Marley, Eldia, the state of Eldians living in Marley, etc., etc. And with this information, they return back to the interior and they have a military meeting to discuss this like completely earth-shattering information. And basically at this point they decide to tell everyone the truth, because they don't really want to lead the same type of regime that was present before they took the coup, or before they did the coup. Like, that's why they did the coup. So they needed to be a little bit honest. So with the new information, with the memories that he's seen himself, From Grisha, Aaron realizes that the Smiling Titan was Dinah Fritz, and Aaron is like way smarter than he ever gets credit for, because he puts 2 and 2 together and he realizes that he can access the Founder's power by touching a Titan with royal blood. He keeps this to himself though, out of fear of what the military would do if they knew this. Like he's like, okay, well they would either make Historia turn into a Titan, or, and because they don't have any more shifters to feed to her, like she would just be a pure Titan, or, you know, I don't know, forcibly breed her. So he's a little trying to be a little nice and keep that information to himself. So then there's like this little award ceremony kind of like honoring the very few survivors of the operation to retake Wall Maria, and Aaron kisses Historia's hand and triggers a few more memories from the future. And these memories, from this point on, we have a completely different Aaron, because Aaron sees in the future that he commits the rumbling, that he starts the rumbling, and that he sees a lot of things that he does in the future, and one of them is starting the rumbling. Trying to avoid manga spoilers, in my words. So as I mentioned, I didn't want to split this into 2 videos, but I had to. So this concludes the end of part 1. I should have part 2 posted shortly, so keep an eye out for that. Like this video and subscribe if you want to see part 2 when I post it. Thanks. Bye.